monitor people. Okay. Well, let's get the show on the road here. Welcome back to a CI Chit Chat. A variety of different exciting things happening here this week, but one of those being I got to get on the road to Omaha here today. So we'll try to keep today's webinar and podcast short and sweet. But there's a lot of updates, so we didn't want to skip out on a week because things are happening when it comes to 45Z in Washington, D.C., and a variety of other things we got going on at Continuum as well. So didn't want to skip out, want to get you guys all the latest and greatest. For anyone that is new, CI is carbon intensity, essentially the carbon footprint of a product. In our case, we're talking about biofuels a lot, and a huge component of the carbon footprint of biofuel comes from the corn or soybeans or other feedstock that's utilized to create that biofuel. So if you want low carbon biofuel, one of the ways that you can get there is utilize low carbon feedstock. In the case of a lot of us here, low carbon corn and soybeans. That means it has a measured low carbon intensity, and major contributors to that are reduced tillage, use cover crops, reduce synthetic fertilizer, improve your yield, a variety of different things. The issue is we don't know exactly which calculator the 45Z tax credit is going to utilize as the feedstock carbon intensity calculator. We know that the IRS has said that they're going to use the 45Z CF GREET model to measure the CI of the biofuel itself, but we don't yet know exactly how they're going to measure the CI of the feedstock. But 45Z is making progress in DC. Hopefully, we get some clarity. I think it's still a couple months away at a minimum, but some really important stuff that I want to share with you all. So, the updates from DC last week, the House Ways and Means Committee moved forward their version of the new tax bill, right? The big, beautiful bill. And it included 45Z. So they protected 45Z, kept it in there. They cut a whole bunch of other stuff, right? If we're going to cut taxes on one side, we got to cut spending and some of these different programs on the other side. Of course, the Inflation Reduction Act and some of these, quote unquote, green tax credits and stuff were very much in the crosshairs of the conversation. But 45Z in particular, so far at least, has passed with flying colors and is looking good. Like I said, the House did vote to keep 45Z in. They also, as part of their bill, they're actually extending 45Z not only to be done at 20 after 2027, but actually extend it through calendar year 2031. So that's a really good move. It was supposed to be just 2025, 2026, and 2027, right? So it's the biofuel produced in those 3 years. So the biofuel that folks are producing right now, utilizing our crop from last year, that is still absolutely subject to 45Z. And if you don't have your ducks in a row and your data put together for your last year's crop, you need to get going on that. We can help to do it at topsoil.ag. And for this year's crop as well, you absolutely need to be documenting every little nitty gritty thing you do. Keep all your receipts. Get good monitor files from your equipment, if at all possible. Shape files or machine data. That's ideal. But take pictures, keep receipts, just document everything. So, part of what the House put out, like I said, protecting 45Z, extending it to 2031, not allowing in foreign feedstock. Now, they uh, included Mexican and Canadian feedstock. So it's basically just no feedstock outside of North America. And I think this is a little bit of an olive branch, right, to our partners to the south and to the north. Obviously, they're getting dinged on a wide array of different policies and conversation that's going on. So I think Congress was saying, "Hey, you are really, really important partners when it comes to agricultural trade, biofuel trade, both biofuels going out and their feedstocks coming in. So Congress, so far at least, has said, hey, let's keep Canada and Mexico involved, but restrict anybody else and their feedstock from being able to be counted. So Brazilian ethanol, Chinese used cooking oil, that kind of stuff. It's out at this point. So 2031, restrictions on foreign feedstock. The other huge one is getting rid of the indirect land use change component, which really makes domestic soybeans a lot more competitive. It also helps on the corn ethanol side as well. Currently, the GREET model accounts for something like 7.5 or 7.4 CI points towards indirect land use change. So by getting rid of that, you basically lower the carbon intensity of US biofuels across the board, which gets biofuel companies a lot closer to the magic number of a CI score of 50, which keep in mind 45Z works that every point below the score of 50 is worth up to 2 cents per point reduced per gallon. So if you had a crappy CI score before, get rid of indirect land use change, you might be a lot closer and within striking distance of 50. And then low carbon feedstocks can get you substantial lowered points. If you already had a pretty good CI score, now you're very likely below 50, potentially by a couple points below 50, and really able to capitalize on this program. And then go further utilizing the low carbon feedstock. If you have carbon capture through a pipeline or otherwise, that's an additional 32 points of reduction. And then you can stack on top of that the low carbon farming practices and be getting real close to a biofuel CI score that could be getting close to zero, maybe even a negative if you got a lot of farmer participation and they're adopting a lot of these practices. The last thing, which is an issue actually in the House's version, is that after 2027, they are restricting the ability to resell the tax credits or to transfer the tax credits. So, one of the major transfers that's already occurred was Harvest Stone. They own 3 ethanol plants in the country. Harvest Stone already announced a deal with Bank of America where they sold $205 million worth of tax credits, right? So Bank of America creating the tax credits, and they are going to use what they need to offset their own tax liability if they have some, or they can sell the credits to a third party who can buy the tax credits at a discount and then utilize the tax credits to offset their own tax liability. Then in the House's version of the bill, that wouldn't be allowed anymore after, I believe it would start in 2028, if I recall. But that's a bad deal, especially for smaller ethanol plants that don't have big tax liability. Bad deal for basically the co-op ethanol plants or member-owned, farmer-owned ethanol plants. Really bad deal for those type of folks. We need the transferability to be an option, especially with the potential volume of credits that we're creating here. Hopefully this one can get fixed up. I'm sure the Senate will be taking a look at it. I'm sure I'll be involved in some conversations to fight for the transferability. And I think it does make sense. You know, if we're going to try to stimulate the economy, really incentivize these programs to take off, transferability is an important part of it. So hopefully we can get that passed through. I was at one point here this week looking at getting out to Washington, D.C. Here mid this week. But yesterday, the guys that I was going to go out there with decided to postpone a little bit. So the details on that, the House version of the bill went out for the most part pretty good. Beside the biggest issue is this transferability thing. So the plan was, all right, well, let's go meet with the folks on the Senate Ways and Means Committee here this week. Let's go meet with the senators on the Ways and Means Committee and let's see if we can fix a couple of these issues, right? So make sure that in their version of the tax bill, we get a couple of these things sorted out. But just got the word yesterday that, hey, not necessarily needed to go out there right now, maybe in another couple of weeks, but don't need to go out there right now, which hopefully means that the intel is, hey, 45Z is looking good from the Senate side. They are, moving things forward and we don't need to go out there and sit down with folks and try to advocate more and educate them about this in person, that they're in support of it. So hopefully that's what it translates to. But if word is different, I'm sure I'll get called out there to try to advocate for 45Z on behalf of farmers and the biofuel industry and agriculture as a whole. Really, really important piece, and hopefully they do get it protected. One of the other things I learned here this week is um, the administration, in particular for 45Z, the Department of Treasury, it sounds like they're not necessarily doing a lot of detailed effort and work developing these tax credit programs until they know which programs are actually going to make the cut in regards to some of these tax bill decisions from Congress. Meaning, the administration and Department of Treasury, IRS, USDA, these folks saying, "Hey, we're ready to go when you are, Congress, but pass the laws first. Tell us which programs you actually want to keep, then we'll get the rules rolled out." So hopefully that still means that maybe sometime later summer, but we got to have the congressional side of things move forward first. The administration doesn't want to go and spend a bunch of time and effort developing programs that end up just getting cut. So hopefully 45Z is bipartisan enough and stable enough that they are taking a little bit of effort at it, but sounds like until there's clarity from Congress, not a whole lot of movement going to be made. But it's understandable. But it also means like the time frame to get the rules, get your data verified, and get this turned around is shorter and shorter and shorter. So again, it points back to 45Z's looking pretty good. I'm more optimistic now than I was, a week and a half ago. There's still a lot of dust to settle, of course, long road ahead, but all the conversations I've been having with folks that are tied into DC are all talking pretty positively. So things are looking like they're moving in the right direction. Which means, okay, farmers, we got to get our ducks in a row. We got to get our data organized. It's going to have to go through these audit protocols and stuff. Like Continuum is already developed, already passed. We know how to do it. We know how to do it at scale and inexpensively as well for this potential substantial return. But it starts with we got to get our ducks in a row, uh, get our data organized, and be ready to rock and roll. Again, my concern being if we don't get rules until September, October, maybe November, that's a really short window between October and tax day in April. So and this takes a lot of work to get all the data put together. So we need to get going on now, keep really good records, and that's uh, data is number one. Data is the critical thing to enable any of these programs to actually work. It all boils down to the data. So farmers, you're in the driver's seat, and we want to just help you out to make sure that you're getting getting the your cut of the value. So I think that's it on the DC side of things. Other than that, Continuum has been working really hard to develop a variety of new partnerships, different offtake agreements, our preferred partners and stuff. Lots going on there that we'll be announcing in the coming days and weeks, and especially as we get closer to our TopSoil Summit. The TopSoil Summit, June 3rd. If you haven't gotten registered yet, definitely get registered. The deadline to get registered, I believe, is the end of next week. To pre-register, you will be able to walk in as well, but to pre-register end next week, so we can make sure you got a name tag and get everything all set up and ready to go and have a proper head count. Really excited about the folks that we have coming. One of those, especially being Geoff Cooper, the president of the Renewable Fuels Association. I just talked with him yesterday. He is very much, of course, got his thumb on the pulse of everything going on in DC in regards to these biofuel policies. So his insight is going to be really important, and he's kicking off the day at the Topsoil Summit. Also, intel from the tax credit brokers, CPAs, um, auditors, sustainable aviation fuel producers, all this stuff. So all of that huge, huge movement going forward. Brian, what we got here? Brian, good to have you on, man. Um, Livestock manure also been included. wanted to enhance the language of the bill. Those were anaerobically digested manure for the production of renewable natural gas. Yeah. Um, and included in the language of the bill. I'm not sure, actually, Brian, that I'm familiar with exactly what you're talking there. So, in the 45Z extension stuff, I'm not sure if I recall what you're talking on the manure side. I know that they made some adjustments on manure for some of these other provisions, but I don't we need to follow up, and I need to look more on within 45Z particularly. Uh did they do a bunch on the manure side, or was it, I know that they made some movement on it for some similar tax credits, but interested in section V, yeah, 45V. That's what I thought. 45V for clean hydrogen, making movement forward on manure, which is awesome and a good indicator that, hey, maybe we can do it for 45Z as well, which really just boils down to utilize the GREET feedstock calculator. Like what we've been saying, it already rewards the utilization of manure, and it doesn't necessarily specify if that manure has gone through digestion or not already. So that would be awesome. Put it through a digester, get the clean hydrogen out of it, and then uh and then move this forward. Oh, section V of the 45Z language. Okay, I need to look at that. I thought you were talking about 45V. So okay, I'll have to look into that a little more here on the manure side. Hopefully they are fighting for it. It's a really, really important piece. And right now, the USDA feedstock calculator doesn't even mention manure at all. So hopefully that's a an indication that, hey, let's just utilize the Department of Energy's GREET model for it, or at least get the USDA model substantially fixed up to include manure, include yield, include actual fertilizer rates, make this a lot better program. But anyway, regardless, it's really good that farmers and these biofuel policies are part of the conversation in DC. They're being looked to positively as a way to, meet some of these goals of the administration, and moving all that forward. So it's definitely good. We'll continue to monitor and keep you guys all in the loop as we get closer to more and more details and rules. Uh, what I was hearing here this week is hopefully we have 100% clarity on some of the stuff by like 4th of July. So over the next 5, 6 weeks, hopefully these things are really, really getting to fruition. Another thing I wanted to mention, we just announced a partnership with Milpont. So Milpont, to explain that a little bit more, startup company out of the Des Moines area. But my Dominic, the CEO over there, tremendous experience in commodity markets, in carbon credits, all that. The concept of Milpont is continuumag is generating these CI certificates, right? Other companies are generating carbon credits. We generate CI certificates. Then we put that project, after we get it verified, we document the project on Milpont's clearinghouse. It's kind of like a registry, like what Vera and Climate Action Reserve have, where you can basically post your project on their platform. What's cool about Milpont is that they remove the identifying information for the farmers, and they have their own proprietary in-house cross-referencing tool that if you're registered under a Continuum Ag project and you're also in somebody else's carbon credit project, it'll flag that the shapefile or the boundary is duplicated and throws a flag that, hey, this farm may be potentially double dipping in two different projects. But it just identifies, hey, this field is entered here twice by two different projects. Then next, it looks at, oh, good question, Brian. I'll come back to that. Uh, it looks at the parcel of ground, and if they are doubled up on, it throws a flag. Then it looks at, okay, what type of outcome came off of that piece of ground. For our cases, it's CI certificates, right? So if you're creating CI certificates in one project, you're also trying to develop carbon credits in another project, going to throw a flag that, hey, these are probably two things that you can't double dip, can't do both. If you're doing carbon credits on one, and then you're doing some other type of sustainability program or biodiversity program or water program through a different project, that's fine. And it'll be able to ensure that um, we're avoiding fraud and double dipping. And then lastly, they have a system set up to be able to document the transaction. So we're starting with, here's the parcel of ground. that we created CI certificates on. Here's how many certificates we created and what the score of those was. And then we can document where those got sold to, where they got traded to, and really be able to uh, have more transparency, avoid fraud, avoid risk in this space. So be massively important if this is done via a book and claim system, like what we want. We'll be really rock and rolling. But even if it is a mass balance approach, tracking where the certificates started, where they ultimately were retired, extremely important. And Milpont are the right guys for the job. They're already working heavily in this space with a variety of different carbon credit players. So Brian asked in the chat, the indirect land use change, it's yeah, like I said, something like 7 points or 9 points or something like that. And I haven't seen if they're gonna completely take it all the way to zero. I believe that's their intent. But Brian's question is, okay, that 7 points or 9 points of reduction, is that gonna be passed along to the farmers? My hypothesis would be probably not, or not really anyway. That because the that 7 points comes after it comes really at the plant side of things, at the ethanol plant or biofuel producer side of things. So keep in mind, US corn today has a CI score of 29.1. Then you add on top of that the seven, call it 7.5 points, plus you add on top of that the emissions at the ethanol plant, plus you add on top of that the energy usage at the ethanol plant and a variety of other things. But it's 29.1 plus indirect land use change all contributes to the ethanol plant score, which averages about a 53 right now. So the 7 point reduction doesn't take the 29 down to a starting point of 22. It takes the ethanol average CI score of 53. It takes it down to like a 46. So maybe there will be a little bit of pass through, and it puts the ethanol plant in better striking distance, but I don't know that there'd be a lot of direct payout or substantial impact that the farmer would see. Where it would really help is that if you didn't have this and say your ethanol plant had a score of a 55, well, they don't get any 45Z credit until they're below a 50. So those first 5 points of reduction, nobody's making any money. And translate that to the farmer side, that means probably for your first 5 points of your reduction, meaning if you got to get your score below a 24, right? For 29 to a 24, those first 5 points of reduction don't get any reward because those first 5 points of reduction don't get the ethanol plant below 50, so they get any reward. Okay, so basically your first points of reduction would be discounted because nobody's making any money. Therefore, farmers, you got to move the needle further if you want to be able to participate in any of the financials. Now, if your CI score is lower and you're already right around a 50 or below, now you don't have potential that you wouldn't have to discount off those first couple points of reduction because now you're already in the money. So hopefully that makes sense. I think that's where this would fit in and where the farmer would be able to see some benefit. Also, a lot of the carbon capture stuff is obviously behind and facing a lot of unknowns here in the state of Iowa. That was another major thing that happened last week is the Senate, the Iowa Senate, voted to not allow the use of eminent domain for pipeline projects, particularly around CO2 capture. So if you can't use eminent domain, they're going to have a really tough time getting these pipelines built, whether it be the Summit pipeline or any other stuff in the future could be a major issue. Um, it's in front of the governor right now, and I know there's a big push to have her veto that bill to allow to continue the use of eminent domain. But if you're an ethanol plant that uh, is trying to get carbon capture put together, it's still years and years away. So getting rid of indirect land use change and lowering your starting CI, and then working with the farmers to bring in the low carbon crops, that's a short term path forward that can really start moving some money. But we need some better clarity from DC. I think things are moving forward enough that ethanol plants need to really start thinking about starting to roll out some programs, starting to talk about this more. They've been very quiet and sitting and waiting, but things are happening, and the window again to collect all the data, get it audited, get it turned around. that window gets smaller and smaller every day that we wait. So um, we're gonna have to gonna have to really buckle down the longer we wait. It's gonna be a lot of work. But anyway, all right, I need to get on the road. Talked a little longer than what I was expecting, but a lot going on, a lot more to talk about. A lot of conversation that we'll have at the Topsoil Summit. We'll save some of our exciting stuff for then. So definitely be sure to come June 3rd down here to Southeast Iowa and hang out with us. You can register, but we'll be back with more webinars to keep you all posted. We're pushing hard and fighting for farmers and fighting for American ag. So we'll keep it going. But anyway, thanks everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.